The Marvel Universe is a universe that is very, very similar to the DC Universe, but also has its differences, obviously. They both have their own very big way of differentiating themselves between each other, having one universe being basically about gods trying to be humans and the other about humans trying to be gods. It's that very main difference between those two universes that usually gets me so interested and enthralled within all of their universes. Now, obviously, one of the stable characters and the biggest stable character of the entire DC universe is Superman, a character that everybody knows, a character that has had some extremely good movies and probably one of the most popular characters to make content about in general. So, I had always been wondering, what would have happened if Superman was in the Marvel universe instead of the DC universe? How would a lot of these things change and like a lot of storylines and just a lot of character interactions change between the entirety of that universe alone? Superman is just one of those characters that you kind of really have to think hard about what he probably would truly change because of how strong that he is in general. Now, when it comes to something like him actively arriving into the Marvel universe, it would just be a situation where we just move Krypton into the Marvel universe, call it a day, don't have any extra big problems about it. It would just be a very simple thing to do because we can just move his entire storyline into that universe and nothing really changes. Have it still be where he's raised by the Kent family and have his entire storyline be the exact same, with the main difference is that this is a world that is very much different from something like how the world in DC works. For Superman this time around, there are things around going like the Fantastic Four, all of these other kind of superhero groups, specifically depending on like how we want to do this in a timeline order. But the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, like some many different groups would probably already exist by the time that he's born. And so it wouldn't be a world where, oh, he's born with superpowers, so we have to hide his superpowers. It would be more of a world where he could probably act a lot more normally. There are so many empowered people already in his world. So it's not one of those situations where Clark is just like living the same thing. Obviously, he probably is going to end up being that exact same Clark Kent that we know. And the biggest thing that would change would just be the fact that he now has so many things else that he's going to be able to like, oh, there's already superheroes around this world. There's already these not even metahumans. There's these mutants. There's the Fantastic Four. There's all of these like gods, like specifically like if we're doing this like the Avengers already exist in their universe. If it's not like, oh yeah, the Avengers are already existing, it's still so much different stuff because we're not going through like the MCU. We're just going through the Marvel universe in general. So it's one of those situations where so many things could be so much different. Now, specifically talking on the Avengers, him interacting with the Avengers would be probably an extremely cool thing to see. Superman would have a very weird dynamic with a good portion of any of the Avengers because of the fact of they act so differently in comparison to some of the people that he's used to. People like Iron Man really could just be simplified as him just dealing with somebody like Bruce Wayne and not having to deal with the Batman persona, specifically around the fact that he's not like this brooding person. He is just Bruce Wayne in this kind of new sense. Obviously, you wouldn't know who Bruce Wayne is, but it is just that is the most simple way to like acknowledge it. Just this rich, glorified a rich person that has his own suit that he's able to do, and he's extremely smart. So it would be kind of similar relationship, honestly, probably with between those two. And when we go into people like Captain America, which in all honesty, I think that they would have probably an amazing relationship by far because of the fact that they are both considered like the big blue Boy Scouts in both of their universes. They're these people that basically represent like just being a good person, solidarity, and being just a person that people should be looking up to. So I don't really just see that these two probably would get along the most. People like, I don't know, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and almost any other person like Ant-Man and all of the other people that would normally be in the Avengers probably would have a fairly good relationship with him. It's not, I don't see a situation where Superman most likely would be it could either be like, you know, how it normally is. Batman's the person kind of leading the Justice League in one world. So it could either be Tony, it could be Cap, it could be whoever, but it'd just be a very different situation because of the fact of, yes, Superman could be the one leading it, but I don't really see him being the person that's leading the Justice League. He's just a member of the Justice League that is quite possibly one of the stronger members, probably one of the strongest members, but it wouldn't be that exact full on situation. Now, coming up with a lot of other things, there would just be a lot of different things that you could talk about. Him meeting up, talking with, and having interactions with somebody like Thor, like a full-on, full-fledged god that they probably would be able to like actually like compete with each other on at least some extent. That would be a fully nice thing to see. Him and Thor obviously would be able to kind of go off against each other. And I only say that specifically due to the fact of we all know Superman and like Kryptonians, one thing that they really can't deal with extremely well is magic. And that is Thor's entire thing. Like a lot of his things like are just kind of considered magic. Obviously, like Thor is extremely strong, and there are some versions of Thor that are honestly think that are going to be able to compete with somebody like Superman. So they probably would be on a much more even footing, specifically in the Marvel universe, where we could get things like Rune King Thor, or even those stronger versions of Thor that would be able to team up against with him, or just like being able to talk to and spar with him and actually kind of give him some kind of challenge in that actual universe. Now, like talking about other characters, specifically somebody like Spider-Man, this probably would be my favorite relationship in a world or a universe that could ever exist like this, strictly due to the fact of he would automatically know who Spider-Man is. That mask wouldn't be able to hide anything from him. So he would know who Spider-Man is, automatically kind of just figure out that this is just a kind of a kid. Because I obviously see a situation where, if we're being honest, since there is no Daily Bugle in this situation, like there isn't like the Daily Planet in this situation, he would probably be working at the Bugle. So Superman would know Peter Parker, the person that takes photos of Spider-Man. So he would automatically know that these two people are the same person, and there would be a very nice relationship there. Like this would be a very good situation for Peter because of the fact of one, I honestly see them having a very nice time because, one, I see Clark, specifically Superman, would very much know about like Peter's entire story and to know that he truly is doing this for the good of his own heart. And I honestly just see them having a probably amazing, perfect relationship in so many standpoints due to that singular fact of, well, these two people are just trying to do their best due to some hard circumstances or just due to like a specific event where somebody that they love died. Specifically with Uncle Ben and John Kent in that full-on situation. They both had people that they wanted to save, but either just couldn't save or just weren't there in time. So it just kind of gives that story that same kind of feeling between both of them, that I see their connection and their like friendship would be something that would be absolutely insane to be dealing with. Now, there is one honest thing that I probably want to really just talk about. Like obviously this is more along the MCU type of thing, and that would be an interaction or a battle against somebody like Thanos. Obviously, in the MCU, they were able to do that so easily, but with somebody like Superman in either just the MCU or just the universe, like the Marvel universe in general, having to deal with somebody like Thanos wouldn't be an extremely hard issue because of the fact that you now have somebody like Superman. Yes, with him having all the Infinity Stones, it would still be extremely challenging, but him, Thor, Hulk, and anything like that being together would be a very, very big help in any kind of general. And especially if we just like kind of take that scene where Iron Man had to be the one to snap the gauntlet, Superman does that and probably doesn't even get really too much injured due to how strong he is. And even if he does, I don't see him getting injured to the same extent as somebody like the Hulk, where his arm is just kind of completely like out of there. This would be a situation where I honestly see him probably getting somewhat, maybe slightly injured, but not on that extreme extent where you either die or lose an entire arm. This would be a situation where he probably is going to be able to heal relatively afterwards just because of that singular fact of how durable and strong his body is. I don't see him ending up like in the same condition as anybody else would have probably been able to do. Now, the most important and most interesting character that I would like to see somebody like Superman clash up against in the Marvel universe specifically would be somebody like Doctor Doom. Obviously, with all of the events that we've gotten with Doctor Doom right now, this probably would be a very interesting character to talk about in general. But I only say that right now because of the fact that this would just be the alteration for somebody like Lex Luthor. Somebody who truly believes in humanity hold on before you talk. But like somebody that is kind of the pseudo Lex Luthor for this world, having all of this extreme power, this extreme scientist, he's an extreme genius and does a lot of things for the wrong reasons and is not extremely a good guy. These two probably would have a very similar relationship to somebody like how he has in his version with Lex and Luthor. Well, like with Lex Luthor. So it would just be one of those situations where I think that he would be the perfect counter for somebody like Superman if we're just going up against like somebody that he usually has to deal with. Which, in all fairness, I usually probably think that villains would most likely end up being either some of Thor's villains or some other like extremely like higher class villains that would be taking up the scene. Those bigger like larger threats, along with the fact of like having a couple like small minor threats here and there. Now, moving on. I know somebody's going to ask about it. Him versus the Hulk, or him having to deal with somebody like the Hulk. That fight would be an extremely interesting situation. One, because of the fact that Hulk really doesn't have any upper limits. And so it would just really be the point where how mad is Hulk going to get? And will Superman be able to like just deal with the Hulk fast enough? Because yes, don't get me wrong, the Hulk, and yes, Superman is strong, but the Hulk is his own entire beast. So if we get a world breaker Hulk, Superman might have some trouble dealing with that. But in all fairness, they probably would have some kind of issues depending if the Hulk goes insane or whatever. But I don't see them really having to deal with so many different things, along with the fact that they probably would be on the same team most of the time. So having these two strong beings in the same team would just be an extreme nightmare for anybody else. Now, specifically on the impact of the entirety of the Marvel universe and like cosmic entities, like Superman would just be an extreme enigma to anybody else. He is too strong, too powerful for any Earthling, and so he would be the main thing trying to go up against all of these really bigger entities, like as I've already said. He would be kind of that final boss on so many things that it would just make a lot of sense for him to be the one talking, dealing with Celestials. Probably not alone, but having him and the bigger, stronger people of the Avengers be the people dealing with something like that. He would be one of those big threats for those cosmic entities that they would not be expecting. They would not know how to deal with in almost any genre whatsoever. They are just going to be confused and befuddled in almost every single turn. They would not know what is going on. Now, one topic that I am just going to briefly mention would be a group like the X-Men. The X-Men specifically would be a group that Superman wouldn't like the way that they're treated, so he would probably try doing at least something. And this is a world that has a lot more superpowered individuals, so he might be able to do something. Because one, obviously, this is Superman, so he would try doing at least the best that he can, but I don't know exactly how much that he would be able to do. He probably could actively like get better relationships with the X-Men, like mutants as a general, by far, because of the fact that yes, he might not be a mutant, but like not everybody knows that, or specifically like people would just be kind of assuming and kind of one, Superman's way too strong, so not really much arguing with him. So it would just be one of those big situations where a lot of different things could possibly happen to lead to a situation where he's leading to helping the mutants and at least getting them better lives in general. So when it comes to like my final thoughts on this, if Superman was in the Marvel Universe, it'd probably be a lot better for the Marvel Universe in general, because of now the fact that they have this strong Omega level person. Yes, they have people like Sentry, Blue Marvel, or all of these other people that are able to like just do all of these different things. But Superman would just be the topping on the cake for a lot of these different situations. So please tell me what you guys think would have possibly happened if Superman was in the Marvel universe and was an actual like Marvel superhero. I was considering making this like an extremely long and detailed video, but I didn't really just have the time. So if you guys want a video where I go full into detail on so many different encounters, do talk about as much stuff that I want to, like you guys would want me to talk about, please go down in the comment section below. But I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.